Hey, welcome back to the Body Wise podcast. I am Beth Manning. I am a psychic and energy healer, and I help you connect back to your body's wisdom. So, have you ever been called too much? Have you ever been called too sensitive, or maybe you've just always picked up on other people's emotions? If so, welcome to the club. This is the story of my life. And I wanted to talk about this today because I feel like for so many people, it feels like a burden to be sensitive. Like, I know for me, it always felt like, oh my gosh, if I could just be a little bit tougher or a little bit more quote unquote normal, um, life would be so much easier because I was always the one that people would go to for advice, and I was always the imparter of wisdom. But at the same time, what I didn't realize was I was picking up so many other people's emotions, and I didn't know that I was doing this, and I didn't know what to do with them. And it caused so much anxiety in my own body. So I want to talk a little bit more about my journey through all of this today and how I have turned my sensitivity into my career. So I want to share a little bit about what that path looks like, and a little bit more about my experience, because I realize we are 22, 23 episodes in, and I haven't shared a whole lot about my own journey. So grab a cup of tea, grab something delicious, and let's dive in. So, my whole life, I have always been a huge feeler. I have always been really sensitive to what's going on with other people, what their experience is like, really tuned into their emotions, to their feelings, to the point where I would enter a room, and before the person that I was meeting with even said anything, I could sense what was happening with them. I could sense the kind of mood that they were in, the kind of day that they were having. And quite frankly, on a low level, I was sensing like, oh my gosh, is this going to be an emotionally burdening conversation to me? But I was a little bit of a people pleaser back then. I'm not gonna hide the truth. So I often just dealt with it. I thought, okay, if I'm gonna be a good friend, I need to just be open. I need to listen. I need to be there for this person. That's what good friends do. But what I didn't realize was how much of an emotional burden I was taking on to myself unknowingly, what was happening with them, how I was really internalizing their experience and sometimes even worrying for them, or, more invested in the outcome of something that they were. But I just thought that this was normal. Like, can you relate to this, right? It's like, it just felt like this was part of being a woman in society, being a good friend, being a good daughter, that this was just the way that things were. So I grew up as an only child, and I think I did a lot of the feeling for my parents. I was always so attuned to their mood and to like if I needed to be quiet, or if I needed to be in a different room or do my own thing. I tended to be kind of full of energy, kind of. People would say you're too much at times, like your energy is too much, because when I was really excited about something, I I would be loud. I would be kind of wild. I would be, just I love to dance. I love to be outside as a kid. I loved music and like making funny skits up. And, that was sort of the way that I started to express myself. But I was told at an early age, not always told with words, but told often by the way people would view me when I was doing this, that that was too much, that I had to tone things down a little bit. So I feel like I became more shy, a little bit more reserved, a little bit even more like in tuned with, okay, well, who do people need me to be? What do people, how do people like want me to show up? Like if I'm a good listener, if I'm taking in all these emotions, if I'm helping people with their problems, like it felt like I was useful, right? So this sensitivity to me, uh, it eventually felt like a burden. It felt like a burden, like people didn't really see the real me, like who I really was. And then I couldn't necessarily be as big and as expressive and like as, putting my own needs first as I kind of inherently wanted to when I was younger. So at the same time, I was feeling, I was even feeling some of animals' emotions and some of, what was happening with my pets at a deeper level. And I just assumed that everybody felt this way, that everybody could communicate with the world around them this way, that they were that tuned in to what was happening in life, to what people were feeling, to what their experiences were. And I was always the wise one with my friends. People would come to me for advice. People would come to me with their problems, and I wasn't really great in school. Like I was good if I could write an essay or be really creative or artistic, but like multiple choice, math, things like that, logic, like that was not my strong suit at all. So I would give people advice and then I would copy their math homework. That was sort of the way that things worked. And it worked out well for me. Not so much with the math because I'm still terrible at math. But so I kind of learned to get by, with my intuition and with these skills because I did enjoy helping people. Like I did enjoy helping to kind of reflect back to them what they're experiencing or maybe what I felt or what I thought, might help them. It was satisfying to me. Like I really enjoyed doing that. I love and really enjoyed hearing people's stories and getting to know them, and really like understanding their world and like what made them tick. I was always very fascinated by that. But I was definitely, told by different people in different ways, not always directly told that I was just like, I was too caring or I was too emotional or too sensitive or like that I overthink everything. And it was like things were just hard to put down because if there was an emotion attached to them, it just felt kind of like this anchor or this weight that I was drawn to and like pulled to. And it was very difficult for me to just like let something go. So eventually, it became time to like figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And, one thing that I was really great at was writing. Cause like I said, I loved people's stories. I loved just like really kind of trying on other people's lives and really feeling what was that like and what is their experience and like what's that uniqueness, what's the draw, what's their life like. So I wanted to write feature articles and really interview people and understand people at this deeper level because I felt like, I could like literally like feel their experience. I felt like I could start to walk in their shoes. And it was this gift then for telling stories that I found that I had. So I ended up doing that going into magazine journalism, um, having some careers in writing and journalism and freelance magazine journalism. And, but about the time that I was doing all of this, like my personal anxiety was getting really high. And I was having a lot of pain in my body. Also, I was like exercising constantly and trying to work out. What kind of felt like trying to just empty out all of this stuff that was accumulated inside of me that wasn't even necessarily mine. And I didn't know that at the time. It just felt like, whoa, this heaviness, this anxiety, I just can't get rid of it no matter what I do. It felt like I was always carrying this around with me. And having these insights and these observations, and sometimes it just felt like I was living in my own world, like nobody completely understood me or who I was. And so I had tried therapy and things like that in the past, but it was just like talking about the same stuff over and over and over again without really any resolve. And it felt like somebody was throwing a rock into this shallow pond of my life. And every session would just stir up all the mud underneath. And then I had to try to process this on my own. And I stopped doing it, right? Because it wasn't really leading to anything for me. So this was sort of a turning point in my life. I was at the end of my 20s, and I was very unhappy with having a desk job. I enjoyed writing. I enjoyed meeting people, talking to people, hearing their stories. I enjoyed the creative process. But I realized that I was not meant for a desk job, to have a boss, to have somebody telling me like, you have to do this, or like you have to write this in a certain way because we're getting funding from this person and this is their value and you have to go along with that. It was very hard for me to do things that felt out of integrity or that frankly just didn't light me up. It was very difficult to really like get into the creative process and the energy of doing that. But yet inside, I would internalize, oh my gosh, they're going to hate me. I'm going to get fired. I have to do this well. I have to, the last article got a good review, so this one has to get an even better one. So there was so much internalized pressure in there. And eventually, what happened was a couple things at once, actually. I got so injured as a cyclist. I was cycling constantly. It was like my only sort of like outlet to try to get all this anxious energy out. And I got so injured that I couldn't do that for a while. I had a really bad lower back and hamstring injury. And I was getting tension headaches, and it was like full stop. Like I didn't know anything about the universe at the time. I didn't know anything about energy at the time. But looking back, I really see that it was this interesting sort of like universal intervention that happened in my life that was like, okay, it's time to stop. And about the same time, my job got eliminated because the economy was so bad. There was so much uncertainty. This was around like 2008. And so I was without a job. I couldn't do the things that I needed to do to get rid of my tension, to get rid of my stress. And that was when I really hit this kind of rock bottom moment, the first of a couple in my life, actually. It's an interesting pattern of growth. But that was when I really started to think about, okay, what do I want to do with my life? What is the impact that I want to have? And I wasn't totally sure of what it was, but I knew that I wanted to be more in a helping profession. I knew that I wanted to start to use some of this wisdom and, you know, turn it from a weakness into medicine and to help other people. And so that was when I went to massage school. I was like, okay, this is the first step. Like I had no clue, what that would lead me to, but it felt like the first step. This was a major life change. It was a move. It was like turning life upside down, starting over again. And so I was going through massage school, and when I started actually working with clients, when we started working in clinic, I was realizing that I was picking up on things that people weren't telling me. I was even picking up on some accidents and injuries and traumas that people had that they never told me about. And this was very confusing to me because I wasn't quite sure of what to do with it. And all through school, it was like, just give them a massage, talk to them, but we're not gonna do like the emotional part, like this isn't therapy, this isn't, you can talk to them, but you might need to refer them out if they need something deeper. And let me tell you, they always needed something deeper, right? Because physical pain in our body, it just manifests as physical pain, but what's actually happening is there's a lot more below the surface that is talking to us through our body, through physical pain. And that was the first time in my life that I sort of like those dots connected for me. And I realized also that my physical pain that I was having was so much deeper. And toward the end of massage school, and when I started going out on my own and had my own business for the first time, which was amazing, right? It felt like I could finally spread my wings and do my thing. And it was scary also, like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, definitely threw a lot of curveballs at me, and it still does at times. But that was when I realized, okay, if there's something deeper, like I want to start doing this work myself so that I can help people do this work, that I can start doing this work with them eventually. Because I knew this was like the linchpin, this was the key. Like, if we could just get deeper, if we could just talk about emotions, if we could just feel into that energy, I knew that was going to help them so much. So I was just very open. I tried so many different practitioners, so many different healers, and it was like each one of them, it felt like gave me a different piece to this big puzzle that was missing. I learned different things from everyone that I saw. And the one thing that I never really knew about or understood was energy. Like it was just nothing that I was really around growing up. Like I had never been to a psychic. I had never really worked with like Reiki or energy healers or anything like that. And I met a couple of amazing women at that time. One who was doing more distance healing with me, one who was doing more in-person healing with me. And the combination of that together just really opened me up, like in an astounding number of ways. And one of the biggest ones right off the bat was helping me to see that just because I'm feeling everybody else's emotions and energy, like that's my gift. That was not a burden. That was such a gift because it translated directly into the work that I was doing. But the thing that I wasn't understanding was that I didn't have to carry it home with me. That I didn't have to take that conversation that I had at lunchtime and still be thinking about it at dinner. That I didn't have to feel the grief of somebody or the ecstatic joy or the sadness or the like, that I got to have my emotions and that they got to have theirs. And this is something that I had never been taught to do before. Uh, I I had no clue that I was picking up on other people's emotions like that. And I started to learn some strategies. I started to learn how to work with my energy in order to like physically check it and to make sure that okay, I'm not carrying things from other people around with me. And if I was, I learned how to let them go and how to reset and balance my own energy. So that was huge. And at the same time, I also learned so much about healing because, my school brain, my science brain, my massage brain was like, okay, if I want to do something, I need a certification and I need like so many hours and, I need to go back to school or I need to do this in order to do something. And when I started working with my first energy healing mentor, who was also a psychic, she really helped me to see that I have the soul of a healer. So it's sort of like, you know, if you're drawn to healing, if you're drawn to this work, like you already hold the textbook inside of you. Like you already know how to do this. It's just a matter of remembering. And once I heard that, it started to just make so much sense to me because I would just intuitively do things or say things or, you know, do something with my hands or do something with the energy. And it just felt like this is the right thing and I don't know why. So it was that huge intuitive piece and learning to trust that I don't need to learn some 10-step process. Like, first of all, if somebody's trying to sell you a 10-step process, it's probably not going to work because it's theirs. It's not yours, right? Just because you have the soul of a healer or the energy inside of you of a healer doesn't mean that it's, this exact blueprint that every healer has. That's what makes it so magical. Like eventually I channeled my own modality out of that, right? So it's like such a unique energy that you have. And that's what makes you so unique and so necessary in the world to share your magic, to share your intuition, to share your wisdom, is because that's the medicine that somebody else needs. Right? It's the medicine that somebody else needs, but it shouldn't drain you in the process of delivering that medicine. So I had to really face a lot of that inner criticism of who am I to do this? Who am I to do this? Like, I'm not a Reiki master. I've actually taken, I think, like level 1 Reiki. Like, what I do really isn't Reiki. Who, like, don't I need a certification? Don't I need, permission to do this? And I realized that the only one that I needed to get permission from was me, and that was some of the biggest work that I had to do, or I thought, I can't be a healer unless I'm fully healed first. Or else I'm some kind of fraud, right? Like, like I got to show up like fully practiced and fully ready here. But the thing about healing is that you learn along with your clients. Like I will often get messages in the sessions that are for me as well, right? Or we're working on the same problem, like similar things that I'm going through in my life, or I'll get a bigger insight. So it's this thing that we grow and we heal together. And the more that you just allow this, the more the magic starts to come forward for you. And so I really, I really leaned into this once. It's sort of like once the door gets opened, there's no closing it. And it's such an exciting thing because I was a hands-on body worker. I was like wanting to get into more of the energy healing, more of working on the spiritual aspect with people. I was learning how to do past life journeys and inner child healing journeys and all sorts of deeper work. And I didn't really know how to transition my in-person business to that because it really was more talking than hands-on, at least for me. Like I loved hands-on, but I wanted to transition into working around the world and, doing a more of a talking situation than hands-on. Because quite frankly, as a healer, you can do anything that you can do hands-on, you can do remotely with people with energy. So even like cranial sacral work like that I was doing, I quickly realized I could do that remotely with people. So I'd put this intention out there. And then the pandemic happened, and I had already had a couple of online clients, and I had to close my business, my in-person business, and it really forced me to go online. And it was an adjustment period at first, but I loved it. I really loved it. It was the next iteration of having my own business, of getting to really craft exactly what I wanted to do, who I wanted to help, how I wanted to put myself out there. Like now I get to show up just as me, and I get to help other people who have been through my experience, who, or something similar, who I know can benefit from everything that I've learned over the years. And that's what feels so fulfilling about this work. So that is the journey up until now. And if you're a woman who's been told that you're too much, maybe that's not your flaw, right? Maybe it's your power and it's part of your path and part of your journey. So I would love to hear any reflections or shares that you have on this. Feel free to reach out to me on social media, Instagram at Beth Manning Intuitive, or Facebook. Drop me a message. I would love to connect and hear more about your story. And if you're enjoying this podcast, I would love for you to share it with a friend, maybe somebody who resonates with all of the things that we were talking about today. Because there's so many of us out there, right? Let's celebrate that. And please give this a review, give this a starred rating. That would just be so helpful to get this podcast in more ears and like really help the people who are ready to step into this and to really own this, and would love to have a little bit of support in doing that. And we'll be continuing to talk more and more about these topics in future episodes as well. So thank you so much for joining me today on the Body Wise podcast, and I'll see you next time.